Let me ask you something. Have you noticed how ridiculously easy it is to stand out these days? I know, you're probably thinking, what are you talking about? Competition is fiercer than ever. But what if I told you that's exactly why it's easier to succeed? You see, I've been observing something fascinating lately. We have more access to information, resources, and opportunities than ever before in human history. People seem to be getting, well, let's just say, less focused. And that's putting it mildly. Think about it for a second. We're living in a time where you can learn literally anything online, often for free. You can access the world's best universities from your phone, start a business from your bedroom, and connect with experts worldwide in seconds. It's absolutely mind-blowing when you really think about it. But here's the thing, and this is where it gets really interesting. While all these amazing opportunities are out there, most people are spending their time watching 15-second videos, scrolling endlessly through social media, and jumping from one distraction to another. And that's exactly why I'm making this video today. I want to show you why society is, how can I put this, dumbing down, and more importantly, why this creates an incredible opportunity for people like you who are actually paying attention. In the next few minutes, I'm going to break down exactly what's happening in our brains, why it's happening, and most importantly, how you can use this understanding to position yourself for success. Trust me, once you see what I'm about to show you, you'll never look at social media, productivity, or success the same way again. Ready to dive in? Let's get started. You know what's fascinating? Just last week, I was having coffee at my local cafe, and I couldn't help but notice something that perfectly illustrates what we're talking about. There were these 5 people at a table, all in their mid-20s, all with good jobs, all with smartphones in their hands, and none of them talking to each other. But here's where it gets really interesting. Every single one of them was watching someone else's life on social media. Think about that for a second. 5 actual human beings physically together choosing to watch other people's digital lives instead of living their own. And you know what? This isn't just some random observation. We're seeing this pattern everywhere, in schools, workplaces, even in professional settings. People are becoming increasingly disconnected from, well, reality. Let me give you some context. 20 years ago, if you wanted to learn something new, you had to really work for it. You had to go to the library, find the right books, maybe even take some classes. The effort required meant that people who pursued knowledge were usually pretty serious about it. But today, everything's different. We have instant access to information, but we also have instant access to endless distractions. It's like we're all sitting at a table with 2 plates in front of us. On one plate, there's a nutritious meal that'll make us stronger and healthier. On the other, there's candy. Lots and lots of candy. And guess which one most people are choosing? This is creating what I call the Great Divide. On one side, you've got a small group of people who are using technology to learn, grow, and build amazing things. And on the other, you've got the majority who are just consuming, endlessly consuming. And here's the thing that really blows my mind. The tools for success are more accessible than ever, but fewer people are taking advantage of them. It's like, imagine having a gold mine in your backyard, but instead of mining gold, most people are just taking selfies with the mine entry sign. But before you start thinking this is all doom and gloom, I want you to understand something crucial. This situation, this great divide I'm talking about, it's actually creating one of the biggest opportunities we've seen in recent history. And if you're watching this video right now, you're already ahead of the curve. Let me show you exactly what's happening in our brains that's causing this shift. All right, let's dive into something fascinating about your brain. And trust me, this is going to blow your mind. You know that feeling when you check your phone and there's no notifications, that slight disappointment? Well, there's actually some pretty incredible science behind that. See, your brain runs on something called dopamine. Think of it as your brain's feel-good chemical. But here's the thing, it's not really about pleasure, it's more about wanting things. Crazy, right? Let me break this down in a way that'll make perfect sense. Imagine you're a caveman or a cavewoman, doesn't matter. Your brain needed to make you want to go hunt, find food, and survive. So it developed this amazing system that makes you feel good when you anticipate a reward. It's like, you know that feeling when you're about to bite into your favorite food? That excitement? That dopamine at work. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Social media companies, they've basically hacked this system. Every notification, every like, every new post, they're all designed to trigger this same ancient system in your brain. It's like they've found the cheat code to your brain's reward system. But wait, it gets even crazier. Your brain has this amazing ability called neuroplasticity. Fancy word, I know, but it just means your brain can change and adapt. It's like, imagine your brain is Play-Doh. Whatever you do repeatedly, your brain gets better at. Pretty cool, right? Here's the problem though. When we constantly feed our brains these quick, easy dopamine hits from social media and endless entertainment, we're actually rewiring our brains to prefer these quick hits over deeper, more meaningful rewards. It's like we're training our brains to prefer junk food over nutritious meals. And you know what happens then? We start finding it harder to focus on things that take time. Reading a book becomes too boring. Learning a new skill feels too hard. Having a deep conversation seems too demanding. Sound familiar? But here's the thing that's absolutely crucial to understand. Your brain isn't just getting worse at focusing. It's actually getting better at being distracted. Let that sink in for a moment. All those hours of scrolling, they're literally training your brain to jump from one thing to another. This is what I call the great rewiring, and it's happening to almost everyone, because here's the interesting part. Some people are starting to understand this process, and they're using this knowledge to their advantage. Think about it, while most people are training their brains to be distracted, a small group is doing the opposite. They're training their brains to focus, to solve complex problems, to think deeply. And in a world where everyone else is getting more distracted, these people are becoming incredibly valuable. But I can already hear some of you thinking, okay, but isn't it too late for me? Haven't I already rewired my brain the wrong way? And that's exactly what I want to talk about next, because this is where it gets really exciting. Let me show you what's actually happening in society because of this rewiring and why it's creating an incredible opportunity for people who understand what's going on. You know what's really wild? We're actually living through what I call the great dumbing down, but not for the reasons you might think. Let me share something that happened to me recently that'll make this super clear. Last month, I was interviewing candidates for a position at my company. Pretty straightforward job, right? Well, out of 50 applications, want to know how many people could actually follow basic instructions? Just 7. 7. And these weren't teenagers, these were college graduates. But here's the thing that's really fascinating. When I talked to these candidates, most of them were genuinely surprised that they needed to pay attention to details. It's like somewhere along the way, being mediocre became not just acceptable, but the norm. Let me break down what's happening, because this is where it gets really interesting. We're seeing this perfect storm of 3 things coming together. First, there's what I call the good enough culture. You see it everywhere. People doing just enough to get by, nothing more. It's like, imagine if Olympic athletes trained just enough to not lose instead of trying to win. That's what's happening in everyday life. Second, we've got this social media effect. Now, don't get me wrong, I use social media too, but here's the crazy part. It's created this world where looking like you're doing something has become more important than actually doing it. People spend more time creating the perfect Instagram post about their workout than actually working out. It's nuts. And third, this is the big one, we've got what I call the comfort trap. Our brains, They're literally being rewired to avoid anything that feels even slightly uncomfortable. Why read a challenging book when you can watch a 30-second video explaining it? Why learn a new skill when you can just scroll through reels about it? But here's where it gets really wild. This cycle is actually self-reinforcing. The more people fall into mediocrity, the more it becomes normalized. It's like, imagine if everyone started walking slower and slower until running became seen as weird. That's literally what's happening with mental effort. Let me give you a real example. A friend of mine runs a coding boot camp. 5 years ago, students would spend hours solving problems. Now, many of them give up after 10 minutes and just Google the answer. And when they can't find the exact answer, they just quit. This is absolutely crazy, but it gets even better or worse depending on how you look at it. These same students then go on social media and post about how they're learning to code. They get likes, comments, validation, all while not actually learning anything. And you know what the craziest part is? Society is actually rewarding this behavior. We're creating this feedback loop where people avoid real effort. They get instant validation for minimal work. This makes them even less likely to put in real effort. And the cycle continues. But here's why I'm actually excited about all this and why you should be too. This massive shift toward mediocrity is creating an incredible vacuum at the top. It's like, imagine if 90% of Olympic athletes decided to stop training hard. Suddenly, becoming a gold medalist would become way easier for those who kept pushing themselves. And that's exactly what's happening right now in almost every field. While everyone else is getting caught in this cycle of mediocrity, there's this huge opportunity for people who are willing to go against the grain. But before I show you how to take advantage of this situation, let me explain why this opportunity is actually bigger than you might think. And this is where things get really exciting. Remember when I said this was actually good news? Well, let me show you why I'm not just being optimistic, I'm being realistic. Think about this for a second. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to rocket to success these days, almost out of nowhere? It's not because they're geniuses. It's not because they have some secret formula. It's because they're taking advantage of what I call the Great Divide. Let me share something personal. When I was preparing for my master's degree, I was terrified of the competition. I mean, seriously scared. I even applied for a telemarketing job because I was so sure I wouldn't make it. Want to know what happened? I got in and ranked third. Third! Not because I was brilliant, but because while everyone else was distracted, I just focused. This is what I call the focus advantage, and it's becoming more powerful every single day. It's like, imagine you're in a room full of people and everyone's wearing noise-canceling headphones playing TikTok videos, except you. Who do you think is going to hear the opportunity knock? Here's what makes this absolutely incredible. The bar isn't getting higher, it's actually getting lower. But here's the catch. It looks higher because of social media. Everyone's posting about their hustle, their grind, their success, but most of it is just, well, posting. Let me give you some mind-blowing perspective. Today, you can learn any skill online, often for free. Connect with world experts through social media. Start a business from your phone. Access the world's knowledge instantly. But here's the kicker. Fewer people than ever are actually taking advantage of these opportunities. They're too busy watching other people do it. This creates what I call the success paradox. The easier it becomes to access opportunities, the fewer people actually pursue them seriously. It's like having a gym membership makes people feel like they're getting fit, even if they never go to the gym. And this is where you come in, because right now, there's this massive gap between what people could achieve, what they're actually achieving, and what they're pretending to achieve on social media. If you can just step into this gap, if you can just be the person who actually does instead of just posting about doing, you've already won half the battle. But now you're probably thinking, okay, this sounds great, but how exactly do I take advantage of this situation? Well, that's exactly what I want to show you next. Let me share some practical strategies that are working right now for people who are capitalizing on this incredible opportunity. All right, now we're getting to the really good stuff. Let me show you exactly how to take advantage of this situation. And trust me, these aren't just theories. These are battle-tested strategies that are working right now. First up, what I call the dopamine reset protocol. Look, your brain is probably used to those quick hits of dopamine from social media. It's like having a sugar addiction. And just like with sugar, you need to reset your system. Here's how. Start with the 2-hour rule. For the first 2 hours of your day, no social media. I know. Sounds scary, right? But here's the thing. Your brain actually starts to crave deeper focus when you do this. It's like training a puppy. At first, it's going to whine and resist, but soon it'll become natural. Next up is what I call deep work stacking. Instead of trying to focus for long periods right away, start with 25 minutes. That's it, just 25 minutes of uninterrupted work. While everyone else is switching tasks every 2 minutes, you're building your focus muscle. Here's something really powerful that almost nobody does anymore. Read actual books, not summaries, not tweets about books, actual books. Why? Because your brain needs to build back its ability to process complex information. It's like going to the gym for your mind. But here's the game changer strategy. Use what I call strategic incompetence. While everyone else is trying to be good at everything, pick your lane and go all in. Want to know why? Because in a world of mediocre generalists, specialists become incredibly valuable. Let me break this down into 3 simple steps you can start today. The morning shield. Protect your first 2 hours like your life depends on it, because professionally, it does. The focus ladder. Start with 25 minutes, then gradually increase. It's like progressive overload for your brain. The excellence loop. Pick one skill, just one, and commit to being ridiculously good at it. And here's a little secret that most people miss. Document your journey, not for social media, for yourself. When you track your progress, you start to see patterns. You start to understand what works for you. But let me warn you about something. When you start doing this, people might think you're weird. They might say you're taking things too seriously. And you know what? That's exactly what you want, because while they're staying comfortable in mediocrity, you're building something extraordinary. Remember what we talked about earlier with neuroplasticity? This is where it all comes together. Every time you choose focus over distraction, you're literally rewiring your brain for success. It's like you're building your own personal advantage while everyone else is building their personal distraction machine. Now, I can already hear some of you thinking, but what if I've already wasted too much time? What if I'm too far behind? And that brings me to our final point. Let me show you why it's actually the perfect time to start and how all of this comes together to create lasting change. Listen, what I'm about to tell you is really important. Everything we've talked about today, it's not just theory, it's not just interesting information. It's your competitive advantage in a world that's getting more distracted by the day. Remember how we started this conversation talking about how society seems to be dumbing down? Well, now you understand why this is happening, but more importantly, you understand how to use this knowledge to your advantage. Let me leave you with something powerful to think about. Every single time you choose to focus when others choose distraction, every time you choose depth over superficiality, you're not just winning that moment, you're literally rewiring your brain for success. Think about it. While most people are scrolling mindlessly through social media, jumping from one trend to another, living in a constant state of distraction, you can be building real skills, developing genuine expertise, creating actual value. And here's what makes this absolutely incredible. The longer this continues, the bigger your advantage becomes. It's like compound interest for your brain. So here's what I want you to do right now. Yes, right this second, take out your phone and set a reminder for tomorrow morning. When it goes off, that's your signal to start your 2-hour rule. No social media, no distractions, just pure, focused intention. And if you're serious about making this change, if you're ready to step out of the mediocrity cycle, leave a comment below saying, "I'm starting tomorrow." Not for me, but for yourself. Make that public commitment. In our next video, we're going to dive deep into advanced focus techniques that can triple your productivity. You won't want to miss that one, so make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell. Remember, in a world where everyone is getting more distracted, the ability to focus becomes your superpower. And you've just taken the first step toward developing that superpower. This is your chance, your opportunity. While others are sleeping, you can be building. While others are scrolling, you can be growing. The choice is yours. See you in the next video where we'll take this to a whole new level. Stay focused, stay hungry, and most importantly, stay away from those distractions for at least 2 hours tomorrow morning. Peace out.